The MV Barima tragedy has revealed many uncomfortable realities that Guyanese have ignored for decades. One such reality is the deplorable state of public transportation in Guyana. Ferries are the only truly public form of transport in the country. And in the light of this tragedy, we are forced to examine how safety standards hardly exist in public transportation. This is the result of a culture that has crept to apathy and readily accepts mediocrity. Guyanese accept wanton recklessness from minibuses, and any standards that do exist are hardly enforced by the government. Minibuses aren't even truly public transportation. They're simply a privately operated service that the Guyanese public is forced to suffer. Guyanese have little choice but to endure the ferries too. The MV Barima was a tragedy waiting to happen, a marker of compounded institutional neglect. Undeniable proof that successive governments have never cared about public transportation in Guyana, not in town and especially not to those in the hinterland. While everyone is calling for accountability and resignations, let's not forget that after 50 years of independence, Guyana still does not have a safe, efficient and reliable public transportation system. Where are the pledges and plans to improve public transportation for Guyanese? Where is the action to improve public transportation for Guyanese? Until we start caring about safety and making it the minimum standard, we'll continue to be willfully setting the stage for future tragedy.
Guyanese people, y'all gotta listen to this. This one shocking. A little birdie whisper something in my ears about the MV Barima. Guys, why y'all think that the government is dilly-dallying and chinking about and has no urgency to bring up the MV Barima out of the sea bed? Why do you think all the offers that they've had to help them to bring that wreckage up, to float that vessel, why do you think that they are so resistant, guys? I've heard this rumor. I'm saying it's a rumor. I am not saying it is true. But guys, do you remember that Egil, right? Egil said the boat was not overloaded. They do not want people to know how much cargo was on that boat. But I understand that Egil had two rollers there that was going to Port Kaituma to do road work. But I understand, guys, it's alleged, and can I say it's alleged? Let me make it clear, it's alleged from somebody that the rollers that were on the ship, on the MV Barima, has some things inside of it. I am going to say some things, but you can guess what I mean. So, the racket that is going, remember that they don't have anybody checking these things, any luggage or any items or cargo going to Port Kaituma because it's not border. But understand, the white lady are in the wheels of the road rollers. I understand it is alleged, guys. So that probably is one of the biggest reasons, because y'all know how this government corrupt, right? Y'all know the racket that they run, and apparently they got dealers in there that they were delivering this to. So they are trying to let that white lady, apparently alleged, dissolve before they can bring the boat up. So y'all don't put it to say that you're gonna ask the family, and then if they're torn about it, or if there's no real consensus, y'all gonna get mediator. How long y'all think they're gonna take? It's gonna take weeks. We don't have weeks. The people want the family. They want as much remains of the family that they could get. They may want for where we, but y'all know, the government know exactly what they're doing. They know why they're implementing this delay tactics, because of what they have to hide. If that boat comes up, that vessel comes up, guys, you guys will see the real amount of cargo and other stuff that were on that boat, and that is what the government doesn't want you to see. Or also, probably allegedly, they're waiting for the white lady to dissolve properly, because they're in blocks, before they can bring it up, so that there is no evidence of it. but probably they should do testing of the wheels of those rollers that are going to that were going destined for Port Kaituma. Then we might know what's in there. Why you think the government is not even budging on the cause for Ejil to resign? Why you think the government is budging? Because there is something freaky, something fishy going on there. And when they've got help, they don't want the help. They're saying it's difficult, but help is offered to them and they're not taking it. They have to talk to the families. Who wants a memorial on a boat on the sea where nobody cannot go to? Nobody cannot. The memorial have to be somewhere you can go, you can lay wreaths, you can see it. Can you see a memorial on the sea? So don't let them try and make you fools. They're hiding something, and something big and fishy and stink. That is what happening, allegedly. Guys, like, share, save, post, comment, and drop me a follow. Queen of the
Sometime before I actually even make a video, because I wanted to see how things were going to be handled and stuff like that. First and foremost, my condolences to the family and friends of the MV Barima tragedy. There is no amount of words that I can say that can bring you and your family comfort at this time. Now the reason I'm making this video is because I don't really speak out a lot on what's going on in Guyana, because I left a long time, so I'm always like on the back end. What my people tell me is what I'm informed with, right? No problem. First of all, the ship shouldn't have been running in the first place. It doesn't matter what excuse y'all are saying. We know it should not have been on the water. Secondly, they said that the ship was replaced. You're going to replace a scrap iron with another scrap iron. So many modern vessels literally exist in 2026. You can look at your neighboring countries and see the vessels. Trinidad, look at their ferry that transport their people. It's a modern ferry. Why are we replacing a scrap iron with a scrap iron? Are we in 1842? I heard y'all buy some helicopters the other day. Old. Everything y'all replacing the country with, old. The fastest growing economy, and you cannot even buy a brand new vessel to run people from one region to the other. Secondly, the wharf. I'm an engineer's daughter. It's a certain conversation y'all can't bring to fucking me. 3 years. Secondly, I'm also in construction. So I know the ins and outs of how motherfucking things go. Them conversation y'all cannot bring to me. 3 years because the soil at that part was bad. Well, find a next fucking soil. That's why it is do surveying. 3 years, no excuse. Anyways, y'all replace the scrap iron with the another scrap iron. The scrap iron ain't working because it is an old fucking boat. Or you bring and give people say, oh my god, look, $200 million home and $2 million. No, y'all thief the money. You could have thief the money. That 200 million, y'all could have thief the money, and y'all could have still buy a brand new, even 2023 vessel and give the people them. Then I saw yesterday, a boat just like the MV Barima is running CARICOM. Cut off. Anyways, the second thing I saw this morning, and one of the reasons that prompted me to make this video as well, is that the crews that survived, which is the captain and 2 other members, are going to be in prison for murder. We understand the negligence of what transpired, but is that also the reason why those people drowned? If we're going to charge a crew member, we need to charge everybody on the wharf. We need to charge everybody in purchasing, as in the people who purchasing these old scrap iron to replace scrap iron. The people in charge of public safety, the minister who is in charge of building this wharf that has been delayed for 3 years, and the public ain't even made aware. Or maybe some people knew, I just didn't. If we're going to start charging people, we got to charge from the top straight down, because negligence came from the top straight down. Not just the bottom, not just the...
These three men in Guyana are being charged with 72 counts of murder following the MV Burima tragedy, and I don't think enough people are talking about it or asking questions. First of all, why murder? Because under Guyana's common law, murder ordinarily requires proof beyond a reasonable doubt that the accused intended to kill or intended to cause grievous bodily harm, and that is called the mens rea. That's what separates murder from other forms of unlawful homicide. And negligence is not intent, recklessness is not automatically intent, poor judgment is not automatically intent. So where is the evidence that these three men intended for dozens of innocent Guyanese citizens to die? If the allegation is intoxication, right? Explain how does intoxication prove murderous intent? If the allegation is overcrowding, explain how does overcrowding prove murderous intent? There's not enough transparency and we need to ask questions. If the allegation is mechanical failure or poor seamanship or reckless navigation, why do those facts satisfy the legal requirements for murder instead of another homicide offense? What about manslaughter? What about criminal negligence? Well, let me be clear, right? These are not political questions. They're legal questions. Because if the state is going to bring the most serious criminal charges available under our law, then the state owes the public an explanation. My concerns aren't going to stop there, right? The MV Burima was not a privately operated vessel. It was a state-operated ferry. Government agencies, they're responsible for inspections. They're responsible for maintenance oversight. They're responsible for regulating passenger transport. And now the COI has been established to investigate maintenance records, right? They've been established to investigate loading procedures, passenger manifest, and seaworthiness, which raises another question. If institutional failures are now being investigated, why were the captain and the two crew members immediately charged with murder? Who certified an approximately 8 to 7-year-old vessel as a fit for service? People are going to say, yeah, Guyana's Commissionary of Inquiry Act protects the witnesses from being compelled to incriminate themselves, but any competent defense lawyer will immediately tell a client facing life imprisonment to be immediately cautious about speaking publicly while criminal proceedings are active. So, this is the practical question, right? How can the commissioner hear the fullest account from people who were actually aboard, if those people must simultaneously protect their constitutional right to a fair trial and their privilege against self-incrimination? It is my belief that justice is measured whether everyone responsible is held accountable, and only those whom the evidence proves responsible. I think that these families deserve more than arrest. I think that they deserve everything that they can get. Every person, every decision, every document. They deserve the truth without scapegoats. And that, I think the biggest problem that Guyana has, it isn't just corruption or poor governments, it's fear. On paper, we have freedom of speech, right? But a lot of Guyanese feel that speaking out comes with consequences, or some fear losing opportunities, some fear public attacks, some fear political labeling. And I think that's extremely dangerous. It's something that we have to get rid of. And if you really want to be a patriot of your country, speak out. If you have a large account,
Guyana is charging the captain of the MV Burima alongside 2 of its crew members with 72 counts of murder for the maritime tragedy that took the lives of dozens of Guyanese not too long ago. And while public outrage at the extremity of these charges is very valid, I think that I'll be doing a disservice to my fellow Guyanese as a content creator to not let you guys know why I think this story runs deeper than just the charges. This is a story about scapegoating and self-preservation. But before we expound on that, we must first look at the charge itself. There are 2 conditions that need to be fulfilled for a murder charge. You have the actus reus, which is the guilty act, and you have the mens rea, which is the guilty mind. And I will focus on the mens rea. For this charge to hold, the prosecution must prove that the accused had the intent to take the lives of or cause grievous bodily harm to the victims, and there is no sufficient evidence supporting this, compounded by the fact that the accused were also victims of this accident. Additionally, here is a clip of the Minister of Home Affairs explicitly stating that the cause of the accident was the tide.
And it had nothing to do with overload and boat taken in water. It had to do with the tide.
There are additional questions that can be asked to challenge the validity of the charge as well. If the captain was intoxicated, why go all the way up to murder instead of criminal negligence? Why not charge them with attempted murder for all the survivors as well? Why stop at the captain and the crew? Why not charge the engineers, the inspectors, and everybody else in charge of maintenance? Who would take the fall if the captain and the crew members had perished? But this is where we go on to my main point. It's not about the charges, it's about what these charges do for the people in power. I think Nigel Hughes explained it best in his post here. To further clarify what he means, there is an up-and-coming event called the Commission of Inquiry, which will be used to ascertain the facts behind what happened with the MV Barima. And naturally, as the people who were commandeering the ship, the captain and the crew members would be there to present their testimonies. However, there is one major problem. Statements given at the Commission of Inquiry are not legally insulated against state prosecution. Simply put, anything that they say at the Commission of Inquiry can be used against them at their subsequent trial. And this is where the catch-22, the figurative muzzle, truly comes into effect. They can either choose to speak at the COI and risk any statement, any slip of the tongue, any misconception, any inconsistency being used against them subsequently at their murder trial, or they can go down the self-preservation route and invoke their right to remain silent and not give any details at the COI. And this silence means that they will not be able to divulge information about who in the government authorized the 8 to 7-year-old boat to continue sailing, which senior official ignored warnings about the engine, who was responsible for allowing the overcrowding, among other things. And this leaves room for these government bureaucrats to come in with their polished stories and pin the blame on these 3 men who have nothing to offer but silence in fear of life imprisonment. However, contrary to popular belief, the government of Guyana is not stupid. In fact, the Director of Public Prosecutions herself already issued a statement regarding this line of thought, saying that the business of the Commission of Inquiry will not affect the prosecution of the charges instituted, and also saying that they can have the COI and the prosecution run at the same time in order to prevent this. However, this PR response is a red herring, and I will tell you why. In order for the statements made at the COI to actually not be used against them at the prosecution, they need to be granted statutory use immunity, and that has not been granted. So essentially, them being able to safely testify at the COI comes down to a trust me. And now I want you to put yourself in the shoes of these 3 men. Will you trust the government that not only thrown you under the bus, but has also lied to the public on multiple occasions about the incident? And this is why I say this is truly a story on scapegoating and self-preservation, because you can see the lengths that these people in power will go to avoid responsibility. And the reason that these people in power are able to get away with these heinous things time and time again is that the average Guyanese is afraid to use their right to freedom of speech to criticize out of fear of attack of their livelihood or themselves. And I'm telling you, no, that fear cost the lives of 72 people. Enough is enough. If you can take away one thing from this video, especially as a content creator, if you truly care about these people whose lives were lost, speak, address it, protest. If nothing moves, nothing changes. And if so, you will live in ignorance and you will die in complacency. God's.
So guess what, guys? Guess what? It's your Queen Proof 2. I have got a document here with the details of how much work the MV Barima needed, and it is evidence that the boat was not seaworthy and that the Minister of Transport and Harbour and the Minister of the Maritime Agency and all of these people, they should be sitting in jail just like the 3 men that they remanded to prison today. Guys, listen to this. Listen to it. It's a long list of stuff of repairs that needed to be done to this boat. And to God, if you are listening to this and you are still say that is the captain responsible for this, or you are agree with the Guyana Police Force or the PPP government, then you are sick in your heads. Listen to this. It's a long list, so I'm going to go through it. So, right? The MV Barima had numerous documented structural and mechanical deficiencies. These were not minor maintenance items but critical safety issues. If they were not repaired or independently certified or verified, the vessel should not have been carrying passengers. So this is what is happening in the hull and the structural damage. Okay, so renewal about 10,000 kg of deteriorated hull platting and frames, replacing another 3,000 kilograms of deteriorated internal walls, plates and frames, serious corrosion, weakened structural strength, possible water entering the vessel, reduced buoyancy, increased risk of flooding. That is for the hull. Now for the cargo hatch problems. It highlights repairs requiring these: replacement of hatch beams, replacement of damaged hatch boards, cement work around cargo hatch areas, installation of a tarpaulin cover. Guys, I don't know many of you saw that video with the guy that said he used to be called to do some work on the ship, and when he went down in the engine room, that what he saw is a lot of rotten metal, and they were using cement to patch it up. So this is evidence that what he is saying is true, and that what most people are saying about this vessel is true. So another thing, the concern being raised are seawater could enter through damaged cargo hatches, cargo movement could affect stability, water entering the cargo hold creates a dangerous free surface effect, making the best vessel less stable. Now the sea valve and flooding risk. The report points to repairs involving sea chest valve, valve boxes, suction boxes, overboard strainers. If one failed, water could flood the engine room and cause loss of power, flooding, severe listing, eventual capsize. Guys, y'all heard this? Let me read this part again. These are things that could have caused the ship to capsize: seawater valves, wall valve, suction boxes, overhead strainers. If one of these fail, or they could flood the engine room and cause loss of power, which we heard they had, flooding, severe listing, and eventual capsize. One repair item requires ultrasonic thickness testing of the hull. This is a very significant because it suggests concerns that the steel hull may have become too thin from erosion. They argue the actual ultrasonic test repair should be produced publicly. Guys, this is a lengthy list. So propulsion problems. The repair list includes propeller shaft supports, propellers, shafts, stem tubes, stern tubes, installation of two new turbochargers. Major work was needed on the propulsion system. Possible consequences is unresolved: reduced engine power, inability to maneuver, inability to face heavy seas properly, steering problems. Repair items included steering ram seals, rubber blades, rubber stocks. So this document says steering problems could prevent the vessel from maintaining a safe heading, maintaining safety heading into waves, increasing rolling or listing. One item required cleaning several surface tanks, particularly filled tanks that create a free surface effect where liquid moves from side to side and reduces the vessel's stability. We're not finished here. This is the last thing. Zinc anodes. Replacement of zinc anodes is mentioned. The document says this supports this idea that underwater corrosion had become significant. Underwater corrosion had become significant, guys. This is all in the tender documents that was given to Egil or Egil Ministry. This is the document that was needing $125 million to renovate. So here it is. How can we, after listening to all the issues that Egil said, the ship had no structural problems, the ship had no mechanical problems, when this is a load of repairs, structural damage, and everything that was needed on this ferry to make it safe for the sea? Take note, guys. Like, comment, share, save, share, repost, drop me a follow. Queen of the Press.
Charged for murder in MV Burima tragedy to file action against DPP over charges. The legal team representing the 3 crew members who were charged with the murder following the sinking of the MV Burima vessel will be challenging the DPP's decision to institute murder charges against the 3 men. In particular, the team is preparing to mount a challenge over the DPP's opinion that the men could be charged while there are parallel investigations. One of the lawyers representing the men, Dexter Todd, said the legal team is concerned by the apparent acceptance by the Director of Public Prosecution that 2 parallel investigations are acceptable when such is not catered for under the laws of Guyana. What do you guys think about this? Drop your thoughts in the comment section. And this was news as of today with
about moving forward? Because we've seen instances maybe abroad, out of Guyana, where an incident like this would happen, and you'd have either an individual or a group of individuals come together and put forward something to the authorities, whether it be an act or something along those lines that kind of ensures greater safety or greater attention paid to certain things, so that something like this does not happen in the future. What is the possibility of that, and is that something that can happen?
Yeah, one of the changes we should have is vessels should have black boxes for internal and external communication, because we have no idea what happened that night with the MV Burima. And I think that's one of the legislative changes that we should see, that there should be some sort of black box system to capture internal communications between the crew members on these vessels to know exactly what happened, because nobody knows for certain unless, I don't know, they said there was a distress call. There do need to be some regulatory and possibly legislative change. And I don't know if most people are not aware. If you are lost at sea and there's no body, you have to wait 7 years to be declared deceased.
Legally.
Yeah, right. If there's no legislation that covers it, and from what I've seen of the Births and Deaths Act, you'd need to have a body and post-mortem. So the only way to get around that, if their body is lost at sea, is to go to court and seek an order saying, well, in a case, like the Costa Concordia or what happened here in Guyana, that there was an event which caused the death of this person. We have no body, and we need an order to have this person declared dead, right? But other than that, you have the common law position, which is, before statute, that you got to wait 7 years.
People's Association on Wednesday called for the recovery of the sunken MV Burima, arguing that the vessel holds critical evidence about the disaster, as well as the remains of victims. The association made the appeal during a solidarity protest outside of the office of the president, where rights activists, political party representatives, and concerned citizens gathered to demand accountability for the maritime tragedy.
It's important that the government is held accountable. There are numerous government ministers that have to go immediately, including Edgil, the Minister of Armed Affairs, and then you have the lower-level officials like the chairman of the region, the regional executive officer of the region. Those are just some of the faces and people that I would like to see resign immediately.
But I don't think the government is trying to take full responsibility, or any responsibility at all for the tragedy that happened. And I think that's unfair to all Guyanese. I think that's only part of the process. And a marine casualty investigation could actually feed into the COI by providing that commission with a more technical report about what the systemic failures might have been with respect to the MV Barima. So far, that hasn't been part of the government's messaging, but I think they can be convinced by protest action of this nature, advocacy in the media, and if the people are calling for it, they will certainly have to listen.
We are tired of this. We are tired of being treated like second-class human beings. We are done with this.
He has to do much better than that, and furthermore, he has to go. All the madness that is going on in Guyana, the Barima sinking is all our hopes and dreams going as well with those lives. We've never faced anything like this in Guyana. Guyana 2026, we're supposed to have oil and gas and be fastest growing economy. This is bare madness, right? So I don't know how many more of us are supposed to die. We had the Madhya Dharms, right? I mean, how many, and every day, you know, on that weekend, other people died on the road. A man killed his wife and then killed himself. Come on, Guyana, what's going on? What's going on with me? Right, it's dead, we dead in, so we can be dead in all the time. So we got a lot of things to fix here. Systems are broken.
Government thinks we're stupid and spineless, and they expect to do the same thing and get away with it again. So it's up to us, the people of Guyana, to show that it's over. Right? The time for taking the iPass is over. We have long deserved better, and I want to urge everybody to stand up and ask and demand better. This is our country. We have a right to proper services, to functional systems, to not die just because we can't afford an exorbitant airfare to go to the hinterland, which is part of our country.
Gina Rose, president of the Amerindian People's Association, said the organization is seeking answers about the circumstances surrounding the sinking and is calling for the broken system to be fixed.
MV Barima must be raised. It carries a lot of information. It carries a lot of evidence. It carries souls of the people. It must be raised, so our people must have closure. We are here because we have a broken system. We are here because our peoples, indigenous peoples and others, have had to endure poor transportation facilities. Whether it's by air, we have leaking planes. Whether it's by boat, we have leaking boats. Whether it's by road, we have road hogs and other things to do. We want answers. We want systems in place to be fixed. Too long have we as indigenous peoples, too long have we as Guyanese people suffered. And this is not only an indigenous problem, this is a Guyanese problem, and we all have to stand together and we all have to fix this situation. No, we don't want any more lives lost.
Opposition leader Azudin Mohammed also joined the protest and responded to comments made by Prime Minister Mark Phillips that the families of the victims should decide whether the vessel should be recovered.
But the Prime Minister and the government, they don't want this boat to float because they know there's a lot of bodies under there, and they know that when you salvage the vessel, you have a lot of mechanical problems. The anchor is not working on the vessel, the electronic systems, only one engine was working. So that's their concern, how they look.
The Amerindian People's Association said it intends to continue its protest until changes are made and its demands for accountability and the recovery of the MV Barima.
I interviewed so many survivors. They told me that the captain saw when they loaded the boat, and he mentioned that we have to take off some of the goods or he's not going with the vessel. Then he received a call. Someone's in seniority, Ejil, called the goods supervisor and told him, the goods superintendent told him, the boat must travel. The captain screwed up his face. 5 persons told me this, and they will be witnesses too, because they assured me that they will stand in support and solidarity of the captain, the mate, and the goods superintendent. Now they arrest those 3 Afro-Guyanese. That is the treatment from the PPP, how they treat the Afro-Guyanese in this country. I want you to know, and even the police officers, public servants, all of them reached out to me that they're scared to work under this administration. They're scared to work under this administration. They told me all the other vessels, all the other ferries are in deplorable conditions. But if he didn't leave, they would have dismissed him or transferred him. He had to leave. When they were leaving, water was coming in the vessel. Well, Mr. Campbell already highlighted all the problems with the vessel. So while the vessel was heading out, around 10 something, only one engine was working. I posted pictures with the engine room and videos. Only one engine was working. Now I have vessels and boats and trawlers and ships. Since I was a little boy, my father owned vessels. So I know that you need 2 engines to traverse in that rough water. One engine cannot handle the waves. So you need 2 engines. So while they were going through at 10 p.m., the water started to come in even more and more, and the weight of the water within the hull and the bilge pump, I heard the pump wasn't even working.
He just signed a blank check to every victim of this. Let me tell you why. The director of public prosecution came out today and said, these 3 guys right here, there was enough evidence to charge them. If you look at my earlier video, I made it clear. These 3 guys are employee of the state. So if the DPP is saying they should be charged criminally, she's also saying that the government would have conceded it is their fault. These guys are not employed by themselves. Let me explain to you what I mean. Imagine a minibus would have turned over and the driver survived. A few people died. I'm not wishing this on anyone. I'm just using an example. A few people died, and we are saying let's investigate what happened. Was it force majeure, meaning too much wind? The owner then showed up the next day and have the driver arrested because he said the night when he collected the driver, he tested him and found out he was drunk. Are we still to wonder who's at fault? So now if the government is saying their scapegoat, as we said earlier, they're trying to use, they expose themselves. So if I am a victim, the people that have been getting 100,000 should be demanding 100 million now, because the government just conceded to the fact that they are at fault. Think about what I just said here. These these captain and crew member are employees of the government. It's a government vessel they were operating. So whether they were high, which we will get into that at a later date, or drunk, bottom line, they have ruled out that it wasn't force majeure, it wasn't too much wind or a big wave anymore. It was the negligence of the captains, which says it was the negligence of the state. I'm not a lawyer, but this don't require an attorney, and I'm hoping that lawyers can come out and confirm this right here. I am saying to you people that the government would have conceded and accepted responsibility the second they charged these 3 men. So at a minimum, the compensation that was 100,000 should start being $100 million. But we're not going to allow them to continue to advantage these 3 Guyanese. I would have spoken to a crew member earlier today. I don't know if he's current or past. He would have indicated to me, just like I've been asking earlier, he would have confirmed the vessel that we're speaking of have never, ever, the cargo has never been weighed. If these 3 guys are charged because they were on pot, then are we to say they conspired? So let's start focusing on who else they conspired with and make sure they too are charged. So what he would have said is that this particular vessel, seating capacity, meaning where you can sit down, can only hold about 50 to 60 passengers. So if we are now saying the MV Barima capacity is 150, we are now saying that the government of the day were prepared to put 100 or 90 something passengers on the floor of this vessel unless they walk with their own hammer. Y'all understand this? The employee of this ship said he still to this day does not have a certificate, and that's not a choice of his. He would have demanded on multiple occasions that he wants to go get his training. He's never received any fire training, any drill on this particular vessel, because he's claiming that the hopper heads always put it off to the following week. He also pointed to the fact that there were a period of time that this vessel was operated in this by the only cargo that was moving on this vessel was the cargo of the state. If you go back and look on Google you will see that there was a time a year ago where this vessel was arrested and there was drugs and there were marijuana on board. You know what the amazing part of it is? This vessel at the time was only carrying cargo for the government. No one else could have put. So if this vessel was being operated by the state, the only material that it was carrying at the time was state material, then there's other questions that still needs to be answered. And I double checked. Sometime in 2025, the vessel was arrested and huge amount of cocaine and marijuana was found on board. I asked the same investigator now to verify this information. The only cargo that was allowed on this ship at the time was the cargo that belonged to the state because they were transferring BRC, cement, and all these other materials. The question is today, people. The other thing that this young man told us is this vessel, whenever it's going to Region 1, the instruction always come from the seniors. The captain never get to pick what goes on this vessel, or how much cargo, or how much weight. The superintendent, and all these different higher offices is who carries that responsibility.
Investigating when the MV Barima ferry is under the Atlantic Ocean, it under the sea. However, the Guyana President Dr. Infant Ali sworn in the 5-member presidential candidate of inquiry to investigate the tragic sinking of the ferry, the MV Barima. The oath of office was administered by Magistrate Judy Latchman on Thursday, July 30th, 2026. The chairman is Justice Godfrey Phillips Smith, a retired Belizean justice, and CARICOM high-level representative Dr. Jason Nowinski, naval architect and marine engineer from Poland, senior maritime surveyor and compliance auditor from Jamaica, Captain Hamanda Noreen Dawn Alfonso. She's an attorney at law specializing in maritime law from Trinidad and Tobago. Listen, I just reading all of the credential and I still want to know what they will be investigating. The MV Barima boat is under the sea.
Ask Azruddin Mohammed a question, respectfully. Where did you get all those body bags from? So quickly. Yes, the body bags, them that you took on the river to retrieve the bodies of the deceased from the MV Barima. Those body bags. Where did you get these body bags from so quick? Did you order it on Amazon? Did you buy it in Guyana? Where did you get these body bags so quick? Or you had them on standby? Where did you get this body bag from? Azruddin Mohammed.
Address you as a minister and you're a failure. You're a loser. You're a waste. You're a disgrace to this nation. You should be jailed.
The boat was not overloaded by passengers or by cargo. There was no engine problem or any mechanical problem. Even the survivors who made videos from the hospital, they're telling you what happened. And it had nothing to do with overload and boat taken in water. It had to do with the tide. Please be advised that the MV Barima is licensed to carry 284 tons of cargo. The cargo manifest shows that we had 268 tons, way below the cargo load. Secondly, the MV Barima is licensed to carry 397 passengers, and we only had 116 passengers on board. The misinformation of overloading as the cause of this incident must be dealt with for what it is. Misinformation and something to create panic and public mischief.
I promised the grandmother of Mr. Delon that, and she asked of me that, Mr. Best, I've been following you. I've been listening to you. Every time you speak, if I don't listen to it, my grandson comes and say, Mom, look, Deepak had something else to say. She wanted me to ask our Bishop Edgel, because I don't think he should ever be called a minister again, a simple question. And she wanted me to ask all of Guyana to join her in this message to ask Edgel a simple question. Why was her grandson charged for murder when he himself said, you just heard the video, the boat was not overloaded? This woman met me in tears yesterday, and I promise her the first video I will do is to ask Edgel those simple questions. So here I am, fulfilling those promises. Edgel, how was it that you said publicly, as the minister, a former minister, that the boat was not overloaded? I will never address you as a minister again. You're a failure. You're a loser. You're a waste. You're a disgrace to this nation. You should be jailed. Second question. You yourself just spoke to the weight and the passengers. So my question to you, Mr. Edgel, and for that grandmother to get the justice she deserved for her grandson, how were the weight calculated? We would have visited that terminal on multiple occasions, and we're yet to see one scale. So when you charge this man for overloading the boat, what were you expecting to use to weigh the amount of cargo that he placed on the said boat that you charged him now, or your government, or the government? Because I don't think the police charged him. Those charges were charges that was instructed. Those were instruction to this is a misdirection tactics. You want us to look the other way, but we're not going to. Go down to the wharf today with your big mouth like you always use and raise your voice and show us a working scale that terminal have. And when you show us that scale, then we'll understand that you were able to give the DPP the evidence that they need. Until then, and only then, we will ever listen to anything you or this government have to say again. Free that man and the rest of the crew. We are demanding that that crew be free. Let the COI get to the bottom of what really transpired.
Hello. If it's the first time you're seeing my face, hi, I am Mia, commonly known as Chantez. It's my middle name on the internet, so it's nice to meet you all. I am a journalist in Guyana. Wow. Anywho, so hi. I know it's currently trending, the tragedy, the MV Barima sinking tragedy that occurred on July 18th, 2026. My condolences to everyone who would have passed and to their families of the deceased. It's not easy. I was out there, I was speaking with the families, and I was, interacting with everyone there. And I would like to give my 2 cents on what I think is currently happening. So, let's get into it. The sinking of the MV Barima could have been avoided. That's fact one. An 87-year-old vessel, mind you. So, a little detail about my family. My grandfather was 15 years old working on that vessel. He actually told my mom that before he passed. Funny enough that they had that conversation, and now that we are having this issue. Anywho, there has been some talk about making the MV Barima site into a memorial, and that this decision will be solely based upon families' request. Now, making a memorial site is one thing. Making a memorial site in the middle of the Atlantic is another. Because who's going out there to do anything? And another thing, and the main thing, is the families. What do the families want? The families want closure. So all this talk about making it a memorial site, mm, it's a no-go for me. And it's a no-go for a lot of the victims' families. I can tell you from the victims' families that I've spoken to, everyone is not on board with that. So here's my thing. The vessel needs to be lifted. It has to come up. And the family deserve closure. And if you want to make a memorial site, I think a memorial site would be most befitting to at least have the ship placed somewhere that people can go and pay their respects. Because who is taking flowers or wreaths to the middle of the ocean to a memorial site to remember what happened on July 18th? I don't think many people would want to go out to that area. So it would be better to lift the ship, place it somewhere after the investigations would have concluded and the COIs and the whole 9 yards. Anywho, so my position stands as lift the ship and then we can discuss memorialization, Uh, Another thing, I am deeply disappointed at the turnout. I mean, there's a lot of Facebook protesters, that's one. And I think more support needs to be meted out to persons who needs help to find their loved ones. I've spoken to way too many families who have still not been able to find their family members, even some who would have been reported in the news that their body have been identified and located. Most of the crew have not retrieved their families' bodies, and that's very sad. Um, so yes, I think the victims' families deserve closure, and that ship needs to come up because in order for a proper investigation to be conducted, you need to have some sort of, you know, the problem. You need to confront the problem, which is the ship. You need to go, you need to check, you need to see, oh, this is what caused the ship to, whatever, to capsize. If it's the engine was the issue, which many have reported, and many of the passengers who survived the tragedy have reported that the engine had a failure. So these are not my words; these are the words of the survivors who I would have spoken to. So let's get into it. Um, so my position, as I mentioned previously, is the ship needs to be floated. A proper investigation needs to be conducted, and any idea or any suggestion of leaving that ship at the bottom of the ocean should not be entertained, because in order for a proper investigation to be done, you have to have the evidence there. So these are just my 2 cents. As an onlooker and, as a journalist writing and consistently reporting on this issue, on this tragedy, sorry, not issue, it's a tragedy. And I hope the families are able to get the closure they are looking for and they so desperately need, because how do you explain it, Children, mothers, entire families wiped out without any explanation or closure. That's kind of tough. I cannot imagine being in that position. I mean, I've been reporting on it, but to place myself in a position where I have to, you know, sit there and think, what if this had happened to me? I genuinely cannot imagine it. And to see people who had gone through it, it's really heart-wrenching.
As we have an update regarding the MV Barima tragedy, the captain and 2 crew members of the MV Barima have now been charged with murder.
Everybody knows the whole vessel is over. People walk this 8 to 7 years old, that vessel. The vessel have a lot of history. The vessel underwater. The vessel radar don't have a radar. The vessel don't have a stop and rescue transponders. The vessel don't have an import. Oh God, oh, look at those lights laughing, those lights laughing. expires in 2022 and maritime inspection in the Vietnam right after the festival. You think that will be a problem? Oh my God, look at the life lost them. Their expires since 2022.
Those charged are Captain Kevin Price, Chief Mate Rondell Robbins, Goods Superintendent Dellon Granderson. They appeared in court today and were remanded until August 3rd, 2026. This has raised serious questions about how murder charges were filed so early before the official inquiry begins. Since the captain and 2 crew members have been charged with murder, what role does Minister Ejel bear in all this? As the minister responsible for public transportation, what responsibility does he have for ensuring passenger safety and oversight? Guys, feel free to leave your opinion on all this in the comment section.
Hello beautiful and amazing people. So guys, in today's video I want us to talk about an update to the MV Barima tragedy. So Guyanese people have come out to actually air out their opinions, or rather they have come out to actually comment on the matter, and yeah, it's very valid by the way. Anyway, welcome back everybody. So the important update about the MV Barima tragedy in Guyana is that the case has taken a new turn, So 3 people have already been charged with unaliving, and the charges have actually shocked the entire nation of Guyana. So there has been reactions here and there, and it has gotten much deeper by the way. Many of these Guyanese people are asking one question: is this really enough? Because if you look at the clips that we just attached, many of them are expressing anger, and there is some belief that the responsibility should actually go beyond the 3 accused. So many Guyanese people are saying that the government should answer the questions that they really need the answers for. Others are actually criticizing the minister for transport, saying that he is responsible because he manages the docket in Trinidad and Tobago, and he should be the one that should be coming out with policies on how vessels should actually be maintained. And you understand, if you are heading or if you are in the leadership of transportation in your country, you are responsible for all the roads, all the transportations. For instance, in Guyana, they use vessels like as their major mode of transport. So national leaders are also being questioned, and I can honestly tell you, since that tragedy happened, there's been very high emotions, and of course they just want answers, nothing else. Water transportation in Guyana is very essential, right? So many communities in Guyana, as you all know, they depend on water, or on water transport, that is, they depend on boats for everyday life, for anything. So for some families, boats are not a choice, they are not an option, they must use it in order for them to access another place or to move from one place to another. They are the only way to travel in around that community. So as you can see, like if it's not an option, then they have to use them to reach to work, to school, to hospitals, and to actually do their businesses as well. So this is why this particular tragedy has really affected like the entire nation, the entire island. So many people in Trinidad and sorry, I'm so used to Trinidad and Tobago. Many people in Guyana, they believe that safety should have been a top priority in their nation. So if you look at the legal side of this story, being charged with a crime does not mean that these 3 people are guilty. No, the courts will decide that, of course, and we all deserve a fair trial. Everyone deserves a fair trial. Evidence will be examined, witnesses will be heard, the legal process will be respected, and at the same time, there is a conversation that is happening about accountability, and there is you all know, you all should understand that there is a difference between criminal responsibility and political responsibility. Criminal responsibility is decided by the courts. Political responsibility is somehow different, and we get to ask whether leaders did enough to protect the public or not. That's all about political responsibility. Administrative responsibility is again somehow different because administrative responsibility looks at whether the system worked properly or not, whether the safety rules were enforced, whether inspections had been carried out, whether regulations was being followed, whether emergency plans are in place. So these are the questions that many Guyanese are actually asking. Many of them are saying that this particular tragedy exposed a bigger problem in Trinidad and Tobago. You all heard from, I think, the first clip that I attached here. So they want stronger inspections because, they believe that safety enforcement in Guyana is very, very weak. And they're asking about passenger limits, they just want answers about life jackets. Why are there no life jackets? Because I know it's very, very essential. Like you must have a life jacket when you are on a vessel. So they want to know whether warning signs were ignored or not. So many of these questions that they want to know, I can honestly tell you they're very important, not because they change the past, but because they want to help, or these particular questions may actually help prevent another tragedy. So it's also important to separate facts from opinion. These charges are official. So again, if you look at public frustrations, it's real, very real. And if you look at allegations against an individual, they must always, be supported by evidence. Any allegations against anybody, against you, against me, against the three accused of unaliving in the MV Barima tragedy, you know, they have to be accompanied or supported by evidence. So that's how justice works. This particular MV Barima tragedy has also started a wider discussion, and many people are asking how safe public transportation really is. People want better oversight, or rather, Guyanese want better oversight. They want stronger enforcement. They want leaders to act before another disaster happens. We still have many families grieving. Some haven't yet found their loved ones. And this is not politics. You can see, you can personally feel it. It's personal because at this point they've lost a loved one. Their lives are going to change like forever. So they deserve compassion as well. They deserve honest answers. And if you look at around the world, major transportation disasters has most of the time led to reforms. So the government, I'm sure they're going to review safety policies. They are going to regulate and strengthen inspections. They're going to come up with new laws, and yeah, that's what is going to be happening. Probably they're also going to do an improved training and equip these particular vessels with emergency equipment, or rather upgrade them. So many Guyanese, many citizens of Guyana, they hope that something good will happen after after what has been experienced already. What they do not want is that you know the government to just brush over it, and life continues without coming up with a solution. They do not want this tragedy to be forgotten. They want lessons to be learned, and safer vessels to be built, and strong accountability, transparency. So they just want to make sure that no family experiences this pain ever again. And I know this case continues, and more information will be coming out each and every time. Of course, the court will do their work, and there will be investigations here and there. So that, because at the end of the day, they need evidence, and the citizens of Guyana will keep demanding for answers. The most important thing is to just let the justice way take its course, and at the same time, conversations about safety should always continue. Should always talk about it, because every passenger deserves to travel safely. And I know. So I don't know what you think about this particular MV Barima issue. Let me kindly comment down below. Let me know what you think about the MV Barima update, the accused people, and everybody that has come out here speaking. So thank you so much if you watched the clip up to this point. I truly appreciate your presence. I love you to the moon and back. I'll see you in the next video, guys. Bye bye.